I call it a cheat code. It showed me the top of the mountain and the path to follow to get to the top of the mountain. It's up to me to do the work to climb the mountain. And the proverbial mountain being my path in life to where, I'm ultimately all the way fulfilled, I guess, is the top of the mountain. The path forward is establishing a gratitude practice. I wake up every day and say 5 things out loud that I'm grateful for. Out loud is the key. It doesn't have to be anything impressive. I'm grateful that I woke up today. I'm grateful that I have 2 arms and 2 legs. I'm grateful that I can walk. I'm grateful that I have 2 dogs who love me, and I'm grateful that I have a wife that sleeps in a bed next to me, right?
Hello and welcome to Mind Shift, the podcast where we explore how to achieve a balanced, fulfilling life by changing the way we think. I'm Alina Bartuli, the creator of this podcast. Having lived in 5 countries and learned 5 languages, I've connected with people from diverse backgrounds. I found that fundamental human struggles and dreams are remarkably similar despite our differences. Let's explore these similarities and differences together as we navigate a path to a fulfilling, peaceful life in our ever-changing world. Hi, and welcome to another episode of our podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Adam Peters. Adam is a U.S. veteran and entrepreneur who has navigated a remarkable journey, transitioning from military service to civilian life while building successful businesses. He founded Stronghold, a community dedicated to supporting veterans in their post-military lives by fostering entrepreneurship, leadership, and holistic wellness. Adam's commitment to helping veterans overcome their challenges of civilian life extends beyond business. He is also a strong advocate for mental health, resilience, and alternative therapies. His insights and experiences will undoubtedly resonate with many of our listeners, especially those navigating the complexities of life transitions. So I want to take a moment to reflect on the theme of transitions because life is full of them. Whether it's moving to a new country, starting a new career, or overcoming a significant personal challenge. Many of our listeners, like myself, are expats, immigrants, or people rebuilding their lives after facing major upheavals. Adam's story is a powerful example of how one can navigate these transitions, find purpose, and thrive in new environments. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to dive into your experiences and hear how you've managed to turn challenges into opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Super grateful to be here. Thanks for having me, and excited to share everything that I've learned with everybody here.
Great, thanks. So your transition from military service to entrepreneurship seems like a pivotal moment in your life. What specific challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them to achieve success in business?
Yeah, man. So that's a loaded question. That's about 8.5 years worth of trying to figure out what I was going to do. So the biggest challenge that I faced with transitioning out of the military, I joined at 17 years old. So for me, my whole adult life was military. So getting out, the common pitfalls I see are loss of identity and purpose. And our identities become so wrapped up in the fixed mindset of the military, one job for one mission, for one organization, for your entire career. And the goal is to get as good at that job and completing that mission for that organization as possible. And when you're so young like that, you don't have time to really figure out who you are as a person. You just kind of take on that role, for me as an infantryman. And getting out, I was a career guy. My career was cut short. So at 12.5 years, I was med boarded out, medically retired because I could no longer serve in that capacity. So not having a plan and kind of not having a future because my future was cut, 10 years short, essentially. That was a really big challenge, and having to figure out who I was and what I was going to do on the fly.
Oh, yeah, that sounds very challenging because as far as I understand, your plan was to retire from military, right? And
I was going to go to 22 years.
22.
So, to get the bump, the percentage of pay that you get at retirement, you can retire at 20. Most people go to 22 because they do, there's a whole conversion thing that you can do to get a little extra cash while you're in, and then you push your retirement out 2 years. So I knew that was the plan for myself. My body didn't let me get there.
Wow. So how do you, I know it's difficult to transition in general, but especially if you didn't expect that you will have to go through that transition, right? Like in your case. So what helped you navigate that transition?
Yeah, there's no really easy answer to that question because it took me so long to really figure out the things that I needed to put in place in order to make that transition better, which is why I do what I do now, why I've started my company and personal brand and all of that. But long story short, I was bouncing around from getting different degrees and trying different things, as per the Army and kind of what they teach you in what was called Army Career Assistance Program. That's the program that you go through when you get out. It's now called SFL TAP. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically the transition program, and the breakdown is in the program itself. They're really good at it's a check the block, cover your butt kind of thing for the Army and all branches of the military. So they throw a bunch of resources at you. They think putting you through a resume writing class and then telling you to go use your GI Bill for an enlisted guy, or use your network for an officer, good luck, kind of shake your hand thing on the way out. What I think that they should start stressing is building a network, because everything happened for me when I started networking with people. And I used to think that the saying your network is your net worth is a cliche until I really kind of experienced the true power of what building a network can actually do for you in terms of creating opportunity. Community, also being a part of various paid communities and free communities via the internet, or networking communities in the community itself that you live in. That's been a huge help for me too. Things like having accountability partners, adopting a growth mindset, having gratitude practices, all of that stuff are all the things that I needed to put in place in order to help me transition better. But the biggest thing that I wish someone would have told me was I needed to sit down with myself and figure out who I was, figure out what my core values and beliefs are, what my passions are, and how I can align those in the direction that I want to move to live a fulfilling life. I didn't have anybody to teach me those things. I had to kind of go figure them out on my own. So again, going back to why I do what I do with the strategic veteran and the Stronghold, I want to be the guy I didn't have.
Oh, that really speaks to me. Yeah, but in a different way. Growing up, I didn't receive much guidance, and so I always want to share whatever knowledge and experience I have gathered to just, warn people to avoid the same mistakes I've made, and just to make their life a little bit easier, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And that's really all it is just sharing of information. Like, we don't need to gatekeep information.
Yeah.
I guess, like, it's so easy to just share what we've learned with others. What's frustrating is when they don't take action upon what you share with them, and then they end up still making the same mistakes. That's the frustrating part. But, again, you can lead the horse to water. You can't make it drink. Everybody they're on their own journey. They have to arrive at that conclusion in their own time.
Absolutely, yes. I always think about learning languages because I like languages. I speak 5, and this is the same thing goes for languages, right? You can. There is such a phrase by polyglot Luca. He says, "You cannot teach languages. You can only learn languages." Meaning, like, yeah, the teacher can provide you grammar rules, can provide you structure, like phrases, but it's up to you to memorize it and learn and use it, put it to use.
Yeah, and I'm in the thick of that right now. I want to learn Spanish. I'm considering kind of living the expat life, on a 5-year plan here, moving to Latin America to be closer.
Oh, hey, I'm here.
Where are you at?
I'm in El Salvador, Central America.
Actually, that's
You're
one
considering?
of the ones I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with kind of the way that country has been turned around from the worst country to the safest country in the world in a matter of 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's comparable to the United States in the way that its government was structured and all of that. So I don't feel like there would be that much culture shock other than maybe the language. But again, like I use Duolingo and I'm on a 109-day streak, and it's up to me to learn that language. It's up to me to sign into that every day and spend time on it. So I agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. We can talk about it more off the record. I mean,
yeah,
later
sure.
about El Salvador. Yeah. I've been here for 5 years now.
That's awesome.
So I really like it here too. So the Stronghold community is an intriguing concept. What motivated? Well, I already know what motivated you to create this network, because you wanted to give people opportunity to have this community, right? That you probably wanted to when you were going through this difficult transition. But what impact have you seen it makes in the lives of veterans so far?
Oh man, it's making a huge impact. Just in the simple fact that it's two things that really led me to create it. I went to flight school as part of my journey when I got out. I thought flying airplanes was going to be my dream. Went and got the commercial license, kind of figured out how many dues you have to pay in the the industry before you can actually fly for a living and earn a decent living. Just didn't line up for me. But going back to when I was learning instruments, which by and large to me is the hardest part of flying to learn, I was joining Facebook groups, aviation Facebook groups, to ask questions of industry professionals who had 20, 30, 40 years of experience. And I would go into those groups and I would ask questions because, like I said, instruments is hard. And I would get ripped to shreds. Like, I should just know this. And like, I'm a student pilot. Like, and it really turned me off to the industry. Well, veteran groups on Facebook are no different. They're the same, if not more toxic. And they perpetuate, I think they perpetuate the suicide epidemic in the veteran community because people genuinely want to come, be vulnerable, talk about what they're going through. And then they're getting made fun of, ripped to shreds in the comments by, people who aren't really doing the work on themselves either. So that was motivator number one. And then motivator number two was it's just not a place like what I've created that exists. It's a member-driven community. It's not full of fluff. There's not a bunch of courses in there that you're paying for. What you're paying for is to come in there and be with like-minded people who are on the same wavelength as you and headed in the same direction, who are action takers, who are already discovered who they are or want to discover who they are and how that aligns with maybe starting a business or being the best entrepreneur they can be, because not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur, but everybody can climb the corporate ladder to the best of their ability with these tools. And so that's really what motivated me to create it is I didn't want a bunch of fluff. I didn't want a bunch of filler. I just wanted a place for people to come, tell me what they need, and then I'll put the resource together for you so that we're not wasting each other's time. I'm not going to waste my time creating a course that you don't want, that you're never going to take. So if you just tell me what you want, then you can go through that course, gain a bunch of knowledge, and implement that knowledge and move on to success.
Wow, interesting. What you said also speaks to me a lot because one of my dreams is also to create an online school. And I think that it's not about really information like that you share, because you can find information online. You can Google, especially in English, right? There's a bunch of information, ChatGPT. But I think it's more about building, like you said, the community of like-minded people, because that shared experience, it gives you the support you sometimes need to go through difficult transitions. Yes, it's also information, but mostly somebody's experience. I think
which is super important because information without context, or someone who's implemented that information to give you their experience and the mistakes that were made, it's just information, and you still don't know what to do with it. So again, another reason I created the community, a bunch of people who have tried a bunch of different things, who can then pass along their experience with that, so that, again, like we said, we don't make the same mistakes. It's kind of a shortcut, if you will.
And about the toxic groups, since you're taking this community, like it's your project, you're obviously like managing, and you're trying to minimize that toxicity, because if you're actually planning to become an expat, here's the information for you.
Yeah.
The expats groups on Facebook or anywhere, they're just super toxic. I've lived in 5 countries and all of them are toxic, have been toxic, right? So like, for example, somebody would ask, where do I buy apples, like in Ukraine? Yeah, I was born in Ukraine. That's why I'm saying Ukraine. And they were like, if you want apples like in Ukraine, go back to Ukraine. And most of answers are like that.
There's no reason for that. Like I feel like these groups were started with good intentions, and then people, they just stop moderating them and they let the hate continue. And it's like,
Exactly.
we as humanity don't need that. We just need to lift each other up. And so I was like, let me just create that place. And I take it very seriously. If you come into my community, I'll keep your money. If you're toxic, I'll kick you out. I'll ban you for a year and you won't get a refund. Like, there's zero tolerance for stuff like that. We don't need to be indecent humans to one another. We need to be decent humans who genuinely want to help. And that does a lot of things for us as individuals. The more we help people, the more it fills our cup, and the more rewarded we feel, and the more successful we become. It's just how it works. So I want to perpetuate a place like that. And so far, so good. Everybody in that community is active. They're genuinely there to help each other. They ask good questions. They present good answers to questions. And so I haven't had to deal with that yet. I'm sure I will at some point. And, of course it'll be hard, but I mean what I say. And I will kick you out. I will ban you for a year, and you won't get a refund because the rules are posted in the community,
Well, that's good. I mean, moderating is a full-time job, so I don't think, like you said, I think the original idea was to create something good for the community. But since it's free, like Facebook groups are free, right? People, how are they going to work on that moderating? And if they have full-time job, they need to make money to feed themselves.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, by and large, the problem is some mistakes are made. Some people get into the group that maybe aren't vetted, or just, I genuinely believe there's people out there that join these groups just to go cause trouble.
Right.
And like you said, that's hard to mitigate when it's a free group, unless you have the resources to pay several moderators to be on top of that.
Exactly. Yes. So, as you know, I was born and raised in Ukraine, and when the full-scale invasion started there almost 3 years ago, my friends and family were there, and many of them have since moved. My mom is now in the US, for example. My brother is in Europe. It wasn't their first choice to leave their home. My mom was like, I had to beg her for evacuation. Like, after a month's full-scale invasion, I was like, seriously, it's not going to be over anytime soon, because what people were waiting, that things are going to get over. It was not her first choice to leave her hometown, to leave the lifestyle she knew, friends and group support, right? System of support that you have built throughout the years by going to school, college, etc. in the same town.
Yeah. Your whole life.
Yeah, your whole life, basically. Yeah. So for our Ukrainian friends currently feeling lost or struggling with their transition to a new life, which is even 2 years later, it's a huge challenge. I have recently done some questionnaire, and it's still a challenge to adapt to a new country. So what practical steps would you recommend they take to start finding their sense of purpose based on your experience leading veterans through difficult transitions?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to really, you have to do the hard thing, and you have to sit with yourself. You have to be in tune with what's going on in your head and your heart, and really listen to that and explore that. Don't run from it anymore. That's really the first step, because that's going to inform all of the decisions you make after that. Because what you'll find is you'll discover who you are, what your values are, and we talk about hobbies and interests, but you'll find out what your passions are, and then you can start steering the ship in that direction. And I think part of sitting with yourself and doing this little experiment to discover yourself is understanding that you need to put society and anybody else's life expectations for your life aside. You need to ignore those, and you need to really, really understand that it's okay for you to want certain things for yourself, and don't let anybody draw that hard line in the sand, set that boundary, and say, this is the direction I'm going to move, with or without you. I don't care, but I am me. This is what's best for me, and you get no say in my life. I think that's the most important, first step that you have to take. Now, in regards to having to leave your home country and go to a new country, man, I wish I had better advice, because that's such a giant kind of transition that I myself haven't had to experience. So I still think that really sitting with yourself and discovering who you are and kind of where your values lie and what direction you want to head is good advice. But I think that's a lot deeper, having to leave your home country for, some things that are going on that probably nobody in the world really agrees with, or understands. So that's a tough one, but hopefully that's helpful to those that have been displaced by the war and all of that.
So you mentioned something interesting, to follow your passions, right?
Yeah.
And I think many people think about it as some kind of luxury thing, many people think, oh, I need to make money now, or I cannot volunteer. Anyway, I talk about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I cannot volunteer for now. I need to make money. I need to make living, or I cannot think about passions. But you mentioned that. And do you think following your passions is luxury, or is it something that really helps to?
No, I think it's necessity. I think it's necessity. I think that's the key to living a great life. And I think that's very close-minded and kind of discrediting of yourself to think that following your passions are luxury. And I say that because I myself, I'm not profitable right now. I'm operating at a loss, which is pretty normal in business when you first start. And so for me, it's a matter of sacrificing the things that I want now so that I can get to where I want in the long term. And that looks like following my passion, right? So delayed gratification is probably the biggest thing that people have a hard time in business or following their passions and understanding, right? Like, I need to make money now. Yeah, everybody needs to make money now, but making that your singular focus instead of following your passion, you're never going to get to where you want to be like that. And so understanding how to sacrifice in the short term for, the life that you want in the long term by delaying your gratification is what I would say to you. Like, you can structure your finances in a way that allows you to chase your passions forever. You just have to be willing to sacrifice some other things. And I think that's where people get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to follow my passion project now. We'll see how it goes. It's another transition I have to go through. And I also, like you, I was dealing with mental health issues like depression and anxiety, and I quit my job. And so at some point I realized that following my passion is necessity, because that's the only thing that will make me sane for now. Yeah, I cannot.
Yeah, and just think about it. Like, I'm sure everybody listening to this can relate. Like, you'll be working a job and you'll just have that feeling in your gut, like, this is wrong, or like, this just doesn't, something is off, something doesn't feel right about this. Versus, you'll use you for an example. Like, when you're chasing your passion, your gut tells you that you're moving in the right direction. Your intuition is telling you, I'm on the right path. There's like very little doubt in your brain. Like, everybody's going to have some kind of doubt or imposter syndrome or whatever. But by and large, I feel like when you're chasing your passion, all of that stuff tends to disappear. The worry kind of tends to disappear. That gross feeling that you have when you're doing something that you just genuinely feel like you're miserable in, that all goes away. So, I think learning how to trust your gut is huge as well, right? Like, don't stay in that corporate job if you're completely miserable and it's causing the anxiety and the depression and the mental health issues. That's because you're not chasing the thing that you're actually supposed to be chasing. You can be broke and not have a lot of money, but following your passion and be very, very happy, versus be very wealthy, have a lot of money, but miserable in what you do every day.
Right. A lot of us choose that stability, right?
Yep.
Over general good quality life because you hate your job.
And that's, I think that's societal pressure. That's what society says that we're supposed to do. I heard it, and I don't know how it was growing up where you grew up, but in the United States growing up, it's go to school every single day, K through 12. And then, you get to high school. So 4 years of high school, and thinking about where are you going to go to college? What degree are you going to get? You need to think about that. And it's like, no, we don't need to think about that. What are you passionate about? What really interests you, and who are you as a person? Let's start pushing people in that direction, because I think that would change kind of the entire thing. Like, society tells us this is the path forward, and I think that's a fallacy. I think that we can carve our own paths, and it's okay.
Yeah, it was similar for me growing up in Ukraine. I chose my first major management of, project management for computer science department, because it was a cool thing to do, and I know that I will earn more money as a manager. So it was more like a practical decision, I would say. But then when I was 21, I moved to South Korea. This was the first time I moved overseas, and then never went back.
Yeah.
And that's when I allowed myself to dream, just to follow my dreams. And I was like, okay, this time, this is my chance. This time I'm going to choose the major that is going to reflect my passion, which I chose mass communications or mass media journalism, So that's why I'm always drawn to doing podcasting or blogging or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And how much more fulfilled do you feel in that?
Well, I feel, from one side, I feel like when I started it, first months, it was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to do, what I meant to do, right? It feels like you found your calling, because I chose it, right? Based on what passions I had, or what I have a passion for helping people. I have a passion for sharing my knowledge. So this is it. I chose podcasting because of that. It's the best way to share your knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. That's funny, because I chose podcasting, but then later on I was like, I actually did not listen to even one podcast in my life. And I don't know how to do it. But you know what? I want to share my knowledge. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. And here you are. You figured it out, and now you have a podcast. And that's what I mean about following your passion. Like, do you regret any of it? Probably not. You're probably very happy doing what you're doing, or you wouldn't continue to do it.
There are days when I freak out, like majorly. I was like, what am I doing? Oh my God. But like you said, all businesses, they start with, you have to invest first, right? And then you get to earn money. But that is so difficult to switch your mentality, another transition, right? From the corporate mentality, when I'm used to receive salary no matter what, every month, to this. I have to invest first, and then I have to make my own living, make my own salary or whatever profit. So yeah, it used to be a difficult transition for me, but very exciting one, because I kind of see myself growing in the process a lot and learning so many skills that I'm sure will be useful.
Yeah, that's the coolest part about following your passion, whether that's podcasting or gardening or whatever that looks like for anyone who's listening. Mm-hmm. What she just said, like that's the feeling that you should have. Like, I can see myself growing, is what you said. And that's why I do what I do. I get to grow every day by helping people. I get to learn something new every single day. I get to sharpen skills that are going to reward me for the rest of my life. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is like, by following your passions, you get to do all of this cool stuff that fills your cup.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't think I will ever regret this decision, even if it doesn't work out, because I'm in the process that makes me a better person every day. I learned so many great skills that I want to learn, that I care about,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So, we talked about mental health a little bit, but it's a pressing issue for many veterans and civilians alike. What are some strategies you've developed to manage your own mental health, and how do you help veterans in your community overcome these struggles?
Yeah, so for me, the big breakthrough came when I got hooked up with a veterans charity called Heroic Hearts Project. They sent me down to Peru to the high Amazon rainforest to do an ayahuasca retreat. And through that, there was like 6 weeks of integration before, then you do the week-long retreat, and then you have 6 weeks of integration afterwards. And in the integration processes, you meet with, some group coaching and some one-on-one coaching, both before and after. And that's when they start to introduce things like mindfulness and meditation and breath work and yoga, believe it or not, and, gratitude practices and abundance mindset. And that's when I really kind of started learning that, like, the world has kept all of these free tools, these really, really powerful tools, a secret from us for a very, very long time. And so, again, I think I'm different in the fact that I've had a plant medicine journey, and that's a whole kind of another experience that we would need several hours to unpack and how that works and all of that. But I call it a cheat code. It showed me the top of the mountain and the path to follow to get to the top of the mountain. It's up to me to do the work to climb the mountain, and the proverbial mountain being my path in life to where, I'm ultimately all the way fulfilled, I guess, is the top of the mountain. And so the path forward is establishing a gratitude practice. So for me, I wake up every day and say 5 things out loud that I'm grateful for. Out loud is the key. And it doesn't have to be anything impressive. I'm grateful that I woke up today. I'm grateful that I have 2 arms and 2 legs. I'm grateful that I can walk. I'm grateful that I have 2 dogs who love me, and I'm grateful that I have a wife that sleeps in a bed next to me, right? Like, and doing that kind of rewires your brain to see all of the things, all of the good things that you have in your life, right? Then the abundance mindset practice. I can look around at this desk and I see thousands of dollars worth of equipment because I'm a podcaster like you and running a business and all of that. And then I think about some experiences I've had, like deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, where by and large, they still kind of remind me of the Stone Age. They live, and they don't have running water in their towns. Their sewage runs through a trough in the middle of their marketplace. Like, this is the kind of infrastructure we're talking about. So by and large, I have an abundance of things. Even if I look at my bank account and it falls below a certain number, I can look at that and look at that with an abundance mindset and say, I have an abundance of money because I have more money in my bank account right now than 90% of the world.
For sure. Yes.
You know what I mean? And
yes.
so all of that kind of gets you out of that negative kind of pattern of thinking. I call it living with the Joneses. It's kind of an old saying from some TV shows where you always have to have what your neighbors have. They get a new car, you got to go get a better new car, right? You're always competing. They got a new dining set, you need to go get a new dining set. It takes that away. I have a plethora of things. I have an abundance of things sitting in front of me that 90% of the world doesn't have, nor will ever have. Mindfulness really, really helped me with all of the mental health struggles that I was going through in forcing me to recognize an emotion when I'm feeling it in the moment, acknowledge that I'm feeling it, then feel it, and then explore why I'm feeling that. I struggled with anger. Anger was a big one for me. Anything would set me off. And I still am kind of dealing with that in like the road rage kind of way. Like, drivers to me are just largely idiots and they make dumb decisions, and it's frustrating for me. But understanding when I'm stuck at a stoplight and somebody sits there after the light turns green for 45 seconds and makes me miss the light, I want to curse out loud and scream and yell in the car, even knowing that person can't hear me. And it's like, no, wait a second. Let's take a step back. Adam, you're angry. You can't be doing this. This doesn't serve you. This is a waste of energy. Why am I angry? And then just kind of follow it back. And then you get to the root cause of why you're angry. You can do that for any emotion that you experience. Why am I sad? When is the last time I felt sad? What caused me to feel sad? And you follow that back, and eventually what happens is you reach some point in your life where there's an unresolved trauma that you have. And then you have to face that. And you have to face that head on, because the only way out is through. So instead of running from that trauma that you don't want to deal with, allow yourself to recognize that it's largely not your fault, that this is a normal response to that trauma. Allow yourself to feel and react to that trauma, and then you can finally move on from that trauma. So, breath work. If you're an anxious person, I think this can help you a lot. I have a simple 4-count kind of deal that I do. A 4-count in, I'll hold it at the top of the breath for 4 counts, release the breath for 4 counts, hold it at the bottom for 4 counts. Usually by the time I've done that 5 times, which comes out to 1 minute exactly, and 5 breaths, my heart rate has slowed down. I've returned to a baseline. If you're an anxious person, I would encourage you to try this. Just any kind of breathing, intentional breathing, in through the nose for a 4 count, out through the mouth for a 4 count. Do that for 1 minute and see what happens. Your heart rate will lower, your blood pressure will come down. You will no longer be having that emotional, unlogical response. You'll be having a kind of be able to look at the emotion that you're feeling in the situation that you're in and the anxiety you're experiencing from a more logical standpoint, and then decide, is this serving me? Am I in any danger? And if it is, then okay, continue with the feeling. And if it's not, now you've given yourself permission to let go of that feeling. So that's a lot of ways that I deal with mental health, and I introduce this to all of my veteran clients. And just a quick story, one of the guys in my community, I was doing some work with him, and I gave him just one quick assignment. I said, when we get off of this call, go into the other room and tell your wife, just look her in the eyes and say, I'm grateful for you, and then text me and let me know how you feel and what her reaction was. And he actually called me back, and he was in tears. He's like, I don't think I've ever felt this close to my wife in forever. And she cried and I cried, and it was a beautiful thing. And it's like, yeah, man, see how powerful just saying I'm grateful for you is.
Oh, that's such a sweet story. But everything you've shared is super useful. Intentional breathing, right? What else did you mention? I forgot. Emotion. Track down your emotions. Why do you feel it? Yeah, because sometimes we're so fast to blame the environment or the triggers, right? For being angry, for example. And like, oh, it's just the way he drives. By the way, I was laughing because if you do move to El Salvador, oh my God, you have no idea. You will have so
It's rough, I'm sure. Yeah.
You will appreciate the way people drive back in the US.
I believe it. Yeah. I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we just blame like the environment. We say that, it's because of you I'm angry, right? Or because you are such a bad driver, I'm angry. But at the end of the day, sometimes when we're dealing with this, like especially post-trauma or some difficult times, like I was dealing with the war in my birth country, I would just get angry so easily, just snap and big time, and that's because I was dealing with something,
Right.
It's because of me. Something internally happens inside of me. So just own it.
Yeah, those outward outbursts, I like to tell people, those are a reflection of something inside of you that you need to work on. That's not the person that they're directed at. That's coming from you. And I'm glad that you said that, because I forgot to add that, but that's very true. Oftentimes, if we're going to make outbursts like that, we should probably go look in the mirror first, because you're just reflecting something out into the universe that you're feeling on someone else. It has nothing to do with that person.
Yes, definitely. Wow, I think even though we didn't go through all the questions, I think we covered a lot today. And it was really cool conversation already. So let's just, I'm just going to close it up if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Your journey from military service to entrepreneurship, along with the incredible work and the vision you have for your Stronghold community, has truly been inspiring. I know that many of our listeners will take away valuable insights from your experience, and whether they're veterans, expats, or anyone going through their own life transitions. So before we wrap up, can you let our audience know where they can find you and learn more about the work you're doing?
Yeah, the best place to find me is at thestrategicveteran.com. It will link you to everything I have going on, from my podcast to my social medias to the community to anything else that I have, my nonprofit work. All of that stuff is all on my website.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you again about El Salvador, maybe this time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm super grateful that you had me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mindshift. This episode was made possible by pure enthusiasm and the decision to follow my dreams. You can help support future episodes by contributing on the platforms such as Buy Me a Coffee or Ko-fi, where you can find me as Alina Bartuli. Don't forget to subscribe to my social media. I hope you feel more satisfied and accomplished as you pursue a life that brings you happiness, peace, and inspiration. I'm Alina Bartuli, and I'm excited to continue this incredible journey with you. Bye-bye, until next time.